Dear compatriots, again from the Opera House, where we continue our support of National Democratic Alliance in removal of Nikol Pashinyan, we will have another interview with National Democratic Alliance Council member Vahe Gasparian. Mr. Gasparian, as a representative of National Democratic Alliance, you know that recently Alliance has had a meeting with the representatives of Zhirai Sefilian, Arap Apian, and Karo Yaghnakian, with representatives of United States House of Representatives, led by Congressman Joe Wilson, and included Congresswoman Victoria Spatz and Steve Schrag, the Executive Director of the Commission of Security and Cooperation in Europe, also known as the Helsinki Commission. What are the purpose and importance for that meeting, and what expectations does NDA anticipate?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that these meetings and all other meetings became possible thanks to great support of our partners of Livingston Group. And the last meeting was another proof that it's a Livingston Group that helped us to open many doors in the Washington establishment. So, first of all, taking the opportunity, I'd like to apply to our supporters, to our compatriots, and call them continue their donations to help us prolong our contract with the Livingston Group. And the Livingston Group, they are really doing a great job, a fantastic job. Livingston Group is helping us to have a chance to communicate, to negotiate with congressmen, with senators, with the people in State Department, in White House, so in all branches of United States government. And this is of utmost importance for the National Democratic Alliance to advocate for the ideas, to spread our ideas inside the establishment of the United States. And actually those ideas are not the ideas of the NDA itself. Those ideas are the national ideology of Armenian people. I mean the succession of the First Republic, I mean the occupation of Armenia from Russia, I mean settlement of Artsakh problem based on the legitimate documents that Armenia has. National League decision of 1920 and the settlement of Artsakh problem according to this decision to restore the territorial integrity of Armenia. I mean the ideology of the systemic changes in Armenia, transitional justice, lustration, adoption of new constitution, fight with the corruption, etc. So those are the ideas that we are striving for, we are fighting for, and those are the ideas that we would like our partners in the United States and in the Western countries to be aware of. So thank you, Livingston Group, and dear supporters, dear Armenian, please continue your kind donations and your help. This is the only source for us, the donations of Armenian people, to be able to work with the Livingston Group and prolong our contract with the Livingston Company. Yeah.
Yes, indeed, it's very important for us on a state level, even though the state itself is not included in this.
No, the Armenian state. Well, first of all, there is no state, and there was no state. I mean, there was and there is no sovereign statehood of Armenia itself, because we keep saying and we insist and we say that Armenia has never been and is not a real sovereign country. Armenia is an occupied country. I call this hybrid occupation because although formally Armenia, Republic of Armenia, is considered an independent country and having so-called independence attributes like being a UN member, having its own anthem, flag, army, currency itself. But in fact, we can say that Armenia, starting from the very first day of its so-called independence in 1991, Armenia was under hybrid occupation of Russia, either direct occupation because we have Russian military presence in Armenia, I mean military base in Gyumri, and hybrid because all the leaders, so-called leaders of Armenia, president and the prime minister, they actually were and they are the collaborative administration, Kremlin puppets. They serve Kremlin interests, but never the interests of its own population. It's like Eastern Europe countries during the Cold War. For example, Ceausescu, Romania, again, it formally was considered an independent country, but it was Kremlin dependent, Kremlin colony, and under the occupation of Soviet Union. So the same story is with all post-Soviet countries, except, for example, for sure, Baltic states. Only Baltic states managed to gain the real sovereignty back in 1999 because they proceed with lustration. They proceeded with lustration, with justice, transitional justice, but all other countries unfortunately remained under total and full control of Russia, political control, economical control, and military control. This was a great mistake of our Western partners back in '99, because they might think that Russia, democratic Russia, Yeltsin's Russia is not an authoritarian country, so the Yeltsin's Russia will not treat those new independent countries like Russia did before. But now we see that it was a huge mistake because what happened after Yeltsin during the Putin autocracy was the neo-colonization and neo-occupation of post-Soviet countries. So the first problem for us is the occupation of Armenia, gaining its real sovereignty, then proceeding with the transitional justice, lustration, to clear the political field of our country from all kind of Russian puppets and agents, political, economical agents and agents in the special services, and adoption of a new constitution, and declaring the succession of First Republic. By the way, Azerbaijan and Georgia did the same. They declared their countries back in '99, the successors of First Republic of Georgia and First Republic of Azerbaijan.
And only Armenia.
And only Armenia declared so-called Third Republic. But the Third Republic of Armenia is a false narrative that was imposed under duress by Kremlin to Armenian puppets, Ter-Petrosyan, Kocharyan, Sarkisyan, and this puppet Pashinyan, because so-called Third Republic declared its succession of the Second Republic. So they consider Soviet Armenia as a second republic, which is a nonsense because Second Republic, so-called Soviet Armenia, has never been the international community member subject because it was a part of the USSR. It was administrative part of the USSR, but never sovereign and recognized member of the international community and international rights subject. So there was no Second Republic, and there could not be the Third Republic. So it was a concept, a narrative imposed by the Kremlin. The same false narrative and concept was so-called independent Artsakh, which was again imposed on Armenia and its leaders and the people of Armenia under Kremlin duress to keep its influence in Armenia, in South Caucasus, and to distract and mislead of Armenian population from the reunification idea, reunification of Artsakh with the motherland of Armenia. So now is the time to return to our succession idea of the First Republic and the idea of reunification of Artsakh with Mother Armenia according to the international law, according to the international rights, and the only legitimate decision concerning Artsakh and concerning Armenian and Azerbaijani border. We always say that we have nothing, we don't deny territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. We don't deny the idea of border delimitation, of peace agreement, but the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan has nothing to do with Artsakh, according to the international law, and delimitation of the borders has to be done according to the legitimate documents, legitimate maps, and international law, but never according to the Soviet maps and illegal post-Soviet borders between Armenia and Azerbaijan that originated after Soviet Union collapse and originated as a result of joint Russian-Turkish aggression, occupation and annexation of the independent First Republic of Armenia, which was a subject of the international law, right, and community. I would like to remind you that back in 1920, the independent Republic of Armenia was recognized by the League of Nations, which was predecessor of UN, and was recognized by the United States of America. And the United States of America kept open Armenian embassy in US until 1933, 13 years after the Armenia occupation. And back in 1959, the United States of America adopted a captive nations law. According to this law, the United States accepted the list of the countries and the people which were occupied, and Armenia was in the list of the occupied countries and people. So United States of America never recognized occupation of Armenia.
However, we must admit that still Soviet government did its evil job, and up till now the population of Armenians living in Armenia still believe that the statehood of Soviet Armenia existed, and that's a corruption of minds actually that still continues till today. However, coming back to our topic, we have to continue coming back to our topic. Mr. Gasparian, the West purposefully continues its support for Armenia, and U.S. Congress has initiated various bills benefiting Armenia. France is offering military cooperation and provided armored vehicles. Germany is providing financial support, etc. So, in addition, in various countries and international bodies of the collective West have made numerous political statements in favor of Armenia. how would you explain the West pro-Armenian stance? To what degree does it have to do with Pashinyan's so-called move to West?
Yeah, this is the help not to Pashinyan regime but to Armenian people and Armenian statehood, because we always say that our Western partners, France, Germany and United States, have their strategic geopolitical interests in the South Caucasus, in our region and in Armenia, in Syunik. We always say that it is in their interest to implement the so-called South-North or North-South project, which will connect the Indian Ocean region and Persian Gulf region, India and Iran, with Europe. Through Armenia, through Syunik, Armenia, Georgia, Black Sea, and with Europe. So it is in their interests, in Western partners' geopolitical strategic interests, sovereign Armenian statehood in South Caucasus. So that is why France and United States and all our Western partners, they said and they send a very clear messages to Aliyev regime that any military aggression against Armenia is a red line for Western partners, and they mention especially Syunik because as we know, Russia, Turkey and Azerbaijan are advocating for so-called Zangezur corridor, which is very much important for Russia to circumvent the sanctions, which is important for Erdogan regime to promote its pan-Islamic, pan-Turkish, neo-Ottoman idea to connect Turkey with Central Asia countries and further with China. And Zangezur corridor will serve also Chinese one belt, one way project. So Zangezur corridor is a red line for the Western partners. And during last hearing, Mr. O'Brien, Assistant Secretary James O'Brien, said that Zangezur, not corridor, but the ways, the roads, the paths, in case they will open the paths, Armenia will open the paths for Azerbaijan to connect with Nakhichevan, should be under Armenian government control and should not be as an extraterritorial corridor. And even Mr. O'Brien said that if Azerbaijan will connect with Nakhichevan through Iran territory, this is again not a good idea for the Western partners, because this is another path to create this corridor, and Iranian territory is again not a good solution for this. So Western partners are promoting, are advocating for their interests here in Armenia and in the region of South Caucasus, and the interests of our Western partners are coinciding with the interests of Armenian country, Armenian people. But as we know, Pashinyan, being a Kremlin puppet, being a Baku and Erdogan regime puppet, is serving their interests. He is advocating for 3+3 concept, which is a regional concept offered by Turkey and Russia. So 3+3 means that only regional so-called powers, Turkey, Russia and Iran, will be involved in the regional problems, but not Western countries. So 3+3 was offered by Russia and Turkey to avoid Western partners entering the region. And it's natural because Russians and Turkish people and Turkish government, they created status quo in South Caucasus back in 1921 when signing the Moscow Treaty, preventing and avoiding Western powers being in the region. So Moscow Treaty status quo is here, and more than 100 years the status quo, Moscow Treaty is working, and they are doing their best to prolong this status quo to prevent Western powers entering the region. This is not in our interests, I mean not in Armenian people's interests, not in Western partners' interests, and that is why we say that if United States and our Western partners want Armenia to adopt a policy serving its own interests and the Western partners' interests, they should be interested in power change here in Armenia. Unless Pashinyan regime is changed, nothing is going to happen here. I don't believe that Pashinyan is going to serve national interests of Armenian people and the interests of Western partners in the region.
Yes, unfortunately that's true, and looking back to the issue of Artsakh, it seems that he closed that issue and repatriate coming back, and it seems that he closed the issue of Artsakh and the possibility of Armenian citizens going back to Artsakh and living their secure and safe life there. And now we can see that only West is raising the importance of this issue and talks about this. And what are the future plans of Artsakh, of the West, regarding this? What they can do and what NDA maybe can do to support this issue?
Yeah, Pashinyan is closing Artsakh issue because Russia, Turkey and Azerbaijan tell him to do so. Because Russia closed Artsakh problem, Azerbaijan and Turkey closed Artsakh problem, and Putin said many times that the problem is solved. There is no more Artsakh problem. Aliyev said the same and Erdogan said the same. But I would like to remind you that back in December 2020, the Minsk Group co-chairs, American co-chair and French co-chair, they visited Yerevan to meet with Armenian government, to meet with the president of Artsakh, Arak, who refused to come to Yerevan and meet them because there was no Russian co-chair. So Minsk Group co-chairs, American and French co-chairs, did their best to continue the settlement of Artsakh status problem and Artsakh people problem. But Russia, Turkey and Azerbaijan and their puppeteer in Yerevan, Pashinyan, did their best to close the problem of Artsakh. And what we have seen all those three post-war years is going to prove that. What happened in Artsakh in September 2023, September 19, and 1 week after that was nothing else but ethnic cleansing, because more than 100,000 people of Artsakh, they left their motherland and they did it not voluntarily. They did it forcibly.
They just understood that staying there is not just safe for their lives.
Because Russia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey created conditions which was not suitable for the peaceful life, not safe. So they were forced to leave, and it was ethnic cleansing. And our United States partners and French partners, French government, the United States Senate, we remember the statements and the hearing in the Senate, in Congress. They kept telling that, they kept reiterating that it was ethnic cleansing, and those people have every right to return to their motherland under international protection, which means that our Western partners raising the problem of international peacekeepers, because so-called Russian peacekeepers failed to do it. They failed to protect Armenian population in Artsakh during this post conflict 3 years, post-war years. And also our Western partners and United States, first of all, they keep saying that Aliyev regime is responsible and should be kept responsible for the crimes committed and for the military and all other crimes. The same we heard from our partners during our last meeting that the members of the council had with Congressman Wilson, with Congressman Victoria Spartz and Steve Shrake. And we are very grateful for our American partners for the understanding of Artsakh problem, of our problem, and the members of council of NDA during this meeting again told them about our vision of the settlement of Artsakh problem, and we said that the only way, peaceful way, civilized way, and just way to settle the problem of Artsakh is to apply to the International Court of Justice of United Nations and let them decide the status of Artsakh.
Based on real documents.
Based on the real, legitimate, and the only document concerning to the status of Artsakh, to the Armenian and Azerbaijani borders. Because I want to reiterate again that current Armenian-Azerbaijani borders are illegal, never recognized by international community borders, which originated after Soviet Union collapse and which originated and were drawn by Stalin. And these 800,000 square kilometer of territory is a result of Armenia's occupation and annexation, which happened in 1920, joined Russian-Turkish aggression against independent Armenian Republic, which was recognized by League of Nations and international community, and the territory, sovereign territory of Armenian Republic was recognized by League of Nations and by Woodrow Wilson Arbitral Award. And Woodrow Wilson Arbitral Award is the only legitimate document, and so far existing. It has no date of expire because it's an arbitral award, and the American Great Seal is on this document. So this is the only document which we have, and we will submit this document to the UN International Court of Justice. So this is the only way the occupation of Armenia, succession of the First Republic, and restoration of Armenian territorial integrity according to the international legitimate documents. We have nothing against Azerbaijani territorial integrity. We have nothing against a peaceful solution and peace agreement, the borders delimitation, but the delimitation of the borders should be done and will be done according to the legitimate documents, but not the Soviet maps, Soviet documents and Putin's papers and maps. Yeah.
Mr. Gasparian, and many times in your previous interviews, you mentioned that both the West and Russia has given up with Pashinyan. And you also mentioned that the revolution is inevitable. From NDA point of view, could you please describe and explain what could be the internal developments in Armenia?
Okay, thank you for this question. This is a direct and sincere question, and I will give you a direct answer and sincere answer. I would like to say, first of all, that I'm not a diplomat, so I'm not confused with blurry words and streamlined phrases. I prefer speaking clear, simple, and intelligible language, and this is the very time for our people to speak clear, simple, and intelligible language with our Western partners, because this is a decisive, crucial, and historic moment for our country, and it's very important for us that our Western partners not only realize the importance of the moment, but would know the whole truth about Armenian statehood, past, present, and future. So the only real revolution that happened in Armenia was back in 2016, after a so-called 4 days war. In July 2016, tens of thousands of Armenian people went to the street to support the guy, Sasna Tsrer. This was the rebellion, uprising against Kremlin, because it was uprising against Sarkisian regime, but Sarkisian regime was the puppet and instrument of the Kremlin.
The previous
regime, and the current regime also, but that time was Sarkisian regime who was the instrument of Kremlin itself here in Armenia. So this was the real revolution, which was oppressed using harsh force. And what happened in 2018, so-called Velvet Revolution, was a theater and show, well performed and written in Kremlin. It was a well-written scenario, theater show performed in Yerevan to bring Pashinyan to power. And Pashinyan was cultivated many years before that as a so-called opposition to Sarkisian regime. The Sarkisian regime led Pashinyan party to enter the parliament back in 2017 and become the opposition to his regime. So they cultivated Pashinyan for the 2018 so-called Velvet Revolution. Yes, Armenian people, thousands of Armenian people participated in this Velvet Revolution, but it was only after that they have seen that police is doing nothing to oppress so-called revolution, because there was an order from Kremlin, order to police not to oppress the people on the street. So this is the truth, and I want our Western partners to realize that. And the very first day Pashinyan came to power, what he did, he said, I'm not going to change the foreign policy vector. So then he visited Mr. Putin, he shook his hand, and by the way, Pashinyan visited Moscow during his 5 years power more than 75 times. Can you imagine? Enormous. 75 visits to Moscow of so-called pro-Western Pashinyan and Revolutionary Pashinyan, etc. So this was a false revolution, and Pashinyan was brought to power by Kremlin to serve its interests, to serve Turkish interests, and to let Artsakh be given to Turkey and to Azerbaijan. And what we have seen in 44 days war, I mean, mass betrayals, many examples of betrayals. I was doing my military service in Zangezur hospital, military hospital, and soldiers told me about the stories of betrayals on the battlefield of high-ranking generals, Armenian generals, and government of Pashinyan during the war. So this was not the real war, not the just war, but this was massacre, well organized by Kremlin and Azerbaijan, and Pashinyan served to the plan of succession of Artsakh to Azerbaijan, concession of Artsakh to Azerbaijan.
By the way, many government representatives today are in Moscow for some reason.
Yes, yes, and that's why Armenian people started to realize that after the war, and many Armenians, the vast majority of Armenians, realized that Pashinyan, in reality, he was brought to power to give Artsakh to Azerbaijan and to close Artsakh problem and Artsakh issue. How I can see the future of the next revolution, I can say for sure that something is going to happen inside the Kremlin regime very soon, because Putin's elections are coming, presidential elections in Russia are coming on March 15 or 17, 2024. And the following months of December, January, February, we are going to see the elite fight inside the Kremlin regime, because there is a huge problems inside the Kremlin elite and Kremlin regime, and I anticipate something that Russians call Russian smuta, which is in fact chaos. Political chaos, demographical, criminal chaos, economical collapse. So I anticipate a collapse scenario inside Russia, and even Russia will fall apart, because Chechen people, Tatar people, Dagestan.
Finally, all those countries that are involved in this false state.
Sure. Many people inside Russia were colonized, were occupied by Russia many centuries ago, and they dream about their own independence. Like again, Chechen, Tatar, Bashkir, Ingush, etc. So Russia will fall apart. The current Russian borders will not exist anymore. I would remind you the words of former National Security Advisor of the United States, Zbigniew Brzezinski, who said the new world order will be drawn without Russia and on the expense of Russia. So we are going to see the chaotic changes inside Russia, and weakened Russia, weak Russia, is the only chance and the very chance for us, and not only for us, but for Georgian people, for Moldovan people, for Ukrainian, for Belarusian people, to deoccupy their country. So once the chaos is happened inside the Moscow and Kremlin, we will proceed with the true revolution in Yerevan to get rid of Pashinyan regime, to deoccupy Armenia, and to declare the succession of First Republic. We are, as you may know, we are striving for transitional government, and we have a very concrete and direct plan of the transitional period.
Of course.
We consider this period to be not more than 2 years. So the plan is transitional justice, lustration, adoption of new constitution, and declaration of succession of First Republic.
Thank you, Mr. Gasparian, for your detailed answers and
thank you for having me.
For being our guest. And thank you, dear compatriots, for watching us. Please subscribe and support National Democratic Alliance with any way that you can, both ideologically and financially, of course, because we are doing a great job with Livingston Group. Thank you.